Fortunately, I couldn't understand a word of that, but I heard destruction, so I thought that's my cue. Destruction. What images come to mind when you think of this word? A violent war scene, the day after a natural disaster, the face of a family who are seeing their home being burnt alive. And the word creation almost seems like the opposite end of the spectrum. Where does your imagination take you now? The heartbeat of a baby in his mother's womb, the spark of a world-changing idea in the eye of an entrepreneur, or the lighting of one candle in the sea of 1,000 unlit candles. Now, the idea of destruction and creation almost feels like they're incongruous with each other. Like, destruction only creates a negative impact, and creation only a positive. And in most cases, in terms of destruction, that is true. However, there are examples where destruction is necessary to clear the way for something new. We've got examples of this in our nature around us. When a volcano erupts, the lava will destroy everything in its path. Countless lives and villages would have been lost. But what comes after the destruction? Some of the most fertile soil on this earth, full of minerals. And once again, life will flourish and grow. So in Eastern cultures, including Indian culture, the naming of a newborn baby is believed to be of real significance to the part they will play in the world and their purpose. Some believe that we did not have our names chosen for us, but that our souls knew our purpose and chose our name. So, when I discovered that my name, Shivani, came from the Hindu deity Lord Shiva, known as the Destroyer, you can imagine my initial panic. I wasn't exactly thrilled about the idea of putting skill destroyer on my CV or LinkedIn profile. However, I did look into this and found out that actually Lord Shiva is also known as the Transformer. And he is the real embodiment of both masculine and feminine creative energy. And that it is the removal of ego, greed, and evil. That is his purpose and his motivation to remove from mankind. So from a young age, I really got to kind of appreciate this notion that destruction is sometimes necessary in order to remove something that's not working and that's not serving us. Only if it's done in the right way. And this is the same for money and power. You know, I hear people say that money and power are the root of all evil. And I would change the perspective on that and say it's our choice to abuse money and power, which is where the problem comes from. So when we're children, we actually inherit beliefs and belief systems that have been created from generations before us. And yes, that is me with a Lego kit. Lego will be so happy. And those belief systems, as I say, have been created before us. For me, I had two sets of belief systems. I had my Indian culture and also the British culture that I was born into. And there were some great beliefs in both. And there were some beliefs that I just did not connect with. Some just went against the core of who I was and what I believed in. And some of these you may recognize. They include, you can't succeed at both doing well and doing good. You have to choose one. Media will only appeal to a mass audience when it shows the negative side of human beings. So the greed, the poverty, the war, the abuse of power, cruelty, and suffering. Number 3, sadness and failure equals weakness and shame. To succeed, you need a lot of money, time, and influence. And finally, and this is the one I love, we are all equal, but some are more equal than others. Now for me, trying to live by these beliefs kind of felt like being in a raging river, trying to swim to one side, but that the water flow is going the opposite way to me. And for me, those beliefs don't do anything positive for us. They don't serve us. They only divide us, blur our vision to choose, and disable our ability to not only make a positive difference, but to become the people we were born to be. Which, according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory, to live a purposeful life is the most fulfilling stage in a human being's existence. So for me to really go with my own flow, of my own river, I had to be courageous enough to let go of some old beliefs, dismantle them, and create some new beliefs that did work for me. And one of the pieces of advice from my parents that I got that I'll never forget is, on earth we all have the right to live our dreams. As long as you do it with a clean heart, with pride, and don't step on anybody else, you'll get there. What they didn't let me know is by carving your own success, whilst keeping your integrity, is often the hardest and longest road. So I came to find out years from now. So I would like to share 2 events with you that really forced me to carve out my own destiny and to live up to my name. So when I was younger, I was known as a bit of a talker. I was told this countless amounts of times. And on the millionth time I got told, you're a talker, I thought, you know what? When I get older, I'm going to become a professional talker. So by 15, I was presenting at all of my school assemblies, and then I progressed on to hosting my own community radio shows, to then presenting to hundreds and thousands of people on big stage events and TV shows for MTV, Star TV, and the BBC. I had a real bug and passion for communication in all things media. And that wasn't because of the glory or the fame that it offered. It was because I realized the power media had to access a mass of people. And I saw the potential that it had to inspire and touch millions of lives. At the age of 23, I graduated from media production and business and set up my own media company, offering my skills as a presenter and a creative video producer. And whilst I was trying to grow my business, I was also trying to get a big job as a big TV presenter for radio and TV with very little success. So I decided there was only one more thing for me to try, and that was to go to the big smoke, London. Now, moving to London, where I was originally in the Midlands, was actually a really big risk for me because the living expenses are at least double. I had no secure finances coming in for the next few months. And a small problem, I was an unmarried Indian girl living with my parents. So to leave my home wasn't the easiest thing for me to do because it's not done in Indian families. Luckily, my family were very supportive, and my parents especially, gave their blessing. So off I went down to the big smoke. And I pulled all the stops out. I got a new showreel done, a new website. I contacted all of the talent agents. I did auditions, countless auditions around London. I even did unpaid placements with broadcasters and entry-level media jobs just to get my foot in the door. 6 months later, after being in London, my finances were running low. My part-time work was just about cutting it to pay my bills, and the doubt was starting to creep in. Maybe, just maybe, moving to London to be a presenter was a big mistake. So, to try and rekindle some of the hope I had waned away, I called a successful broadcast presenter to get his advice. And the advice that came was both a painful truth and a big blessing. He said to me, although you look and sound the part, what are you offering that none of the other hundreds and thousands of presenters are offering? And at that point, I almost heard my ego sigh, bow her head, and exit the stage. And I knew in that moment that he was right, that maybe I had wasted my time and I hadn't been showing who I really was. And the biggest pain for me was that I realized I had made a big mistake. And the mistake wasn't to fulfill my dreams or to come to London to be a presenter based on just faith. It was because I was trying to fit my skills and my passions into an industry that measured its success on how many bums are on seats and how many eyes are watching TV sets. Whereas my own version of success is really what's happening after those TV shows. What inspiration is coming from those TV programs or radio shows that are making people want to do something? What are they being inspired to do? That's the kind of media I wanted to be a part of. But at the time, there was no platform for me to do that. So I took a deep breath. I want to pause on that part of my life and take you to another thing that was going on at the same time, because I like to do things all at once. Just before I moved to London, I started a coach training course, a 2.5-year one, and I started another second business, a social enterprise called The Career Surgery, which is all about coaching and training young people to make better career choices, which was a much needed thing in the UK and probably around the world. Within a year of setting The Career Surgery up, the UK government made massive cuts across the education and youth sector, all of whom are my main target clients. So I had to close down the business because I wasn't able to survive the cuts. So there I was, 2 failures and feeling pretty deflated and ego pretty crushed at this point. And I had to ask myself, maybe it was doing good and doing well a bit of a pipe dream. Was I kidding myself all this time? So I nearly took a step back from being a social entrepreneur and nearly took a 9-to-5 solid job. You know those 9-to-5 solid jobs that people do? I was going to try and do one of those. And then, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, came this silver lining in these looming clouds. And what that silver lining was is that it showed me the importance of humility. And it reminded me of this idea that sometimes what you want shows up in the most unexpected places. And the unexpected place for me was in my coaching profession. I got so much fulfillment with working with my clients internationally on their, life and on their professional needs, and actually getting them to be really courageous in taking control of the life they wanted instead of sitting back and letting it happen to them. My coach practice was building, and I was 2 months away from becoming a certified professional coach. And then it just hit me like a monsoon rain. If I want to create a positive impact using my skills and showing who I really am, then I have to create my own platform. And so I did. I'll be taken to the streets of the UK to be a street coach, or in my case, the people's coach.
Learned that obviously I've been so afraid and so scared of going after my goals and my dream, and she doesn't just talk to people, she listens a lot to whatever you have to say, and she picks out the really important question and just kind of makes you think about everything you've been doing, and I think it's really great.
And when you talk about singing, your eyes light up, your mouth lights up.
I would have liked to talk longer to her. That would have been nice. The powerful thing, really, which was quite simple, was to make me stop and think. It was a solution I had within myself, but she was able to bring that solution out.
I learned that I don't actually take a lot of risks, and through the question that she gave me is that you really need to actually start living your life more and make sure you make the most of every day. A lot of people don't value themselves enough, and having a life coach can really help them boost their self-esteem and make an impact on their life.
Well, I think it could have a great value to enable people to get more from themselves and not to be boxed in by their routines and the sort of habits that they adopt.
I actually thought it wouldn't work, but it actually did work, so...
Thus being street coached by Shivani Mair.
I've just been street coached by Shivani Mair.
I've just been street coached by Shivani Mair.
I've been street coached by Shivani Mair, who is creative by nature.
So coaching as a profession has been around for centuries, but never before has street coaching been done. And my plan is to take street coaching around the UK and maybe even globally. So within a week of putting that film on YouTube, I got flooded with calls and emails from total strangers and coaches from around the world who were super excited. And what their feedback proved to me was that through a simple act of kindness and using some transformative coaching skills, that we can actually create powerful human connections, and that we can inspire people and give them hope, especially at a time where we are all suffering through social, economic, and environmental struggles. And what came afterwards was people saying, how can I be involved? How can I help make more of an impact? So in 2012, October, I coached coaches from around the world. I trained coaches from around the world to take part in the first ever coaching flash mob in London as part of the ICF annual global conference. And what came as a result afterwards? The Our People's Coach took a life of its own. So me and a team of volunteers are working really hard to make the Our People's Coach concept sustainable, because I want to be able to take and share that magic of human connections, not only around the whole of the UK, but around the whole of the world. So my initial struggles that I mentioned really gave me a chance to learn about what I was and was not prepared to give up. And the expression, you have to lose something to gain something, really hit home for me. Because what I lost was wasting my time in an industry that didn't serve my dreams. And what I gained were a new set of beliefs that I hope my children will one day inherit. So those beliefs are this: we can do well by doing good. Mainstream media is most powerful when it celebrates human innovation, creativity, resilience, and kindness. TED, YouTube, and Oprah Winfrey's network are some of the great examples out there. Sadness and failure are necessary to being alive, and there is always a gift after every struggle. We all have plenty. The success comes down to whether we use what we have resourcefully. And finally, we are all equal, but we all have unique strengths and serve a different purpose. So for me, this is a really important notion, because if we don't take control of who we are and what we're about, we end up trying to live like somebody else. And from what I learned from my own experience is ignoring who you are is soul destroying. So every one of us and all of our journeys, whether seen as heroic or not, is filled with challenges every day. Challenges that give us the opportunity to choose. Do we honor our values and our talents? Or do we ignore who we are just to blend in? And from my experience, blending in will never work. So I leave you with this. Think of a belief or an attitude that you've inherited that isn't working for you or others. And ask yourself the question: how bad does it need to get before you step forward and create your own rule book and carve out your own path to honor who you really are? My belief is that we all have the ability to change and leave the world in a better place than we found it. So I invite you to take up that challenge and do it in the way that you were born to. Namaste.